Your blood is too cheap to carry my child. 5 words. That's all it took to destroy a woman who was ready to give him everything. This is the story of a man who threw away the best thing that ever happened to him because he was too weak to stand up to the woman who raised him. And 4 years later, when he finally realized what he'd lost, it was almost too late, or should I say it was already late, because what happens at the end will bring down tears from your eyes. Grant Coldwell didn't choose to be cold. He was sculpted that way. Eleanor Coldwell made sure of it. She was the kind of woman who believed her last name was a crown, and everyone else was born to kneel. She didn't raise her voice because she didn't have to. Her silence was sharper than any scream. Her disappointment cut deeper than any blade. And her expectations? They were chains disguised as legacy. Eleanor raised Grant with 2 commandments carved into his bones. Coldwell men do not marry beneath them. Coldwell heirs are not born from ordinary blood. For 28 years, Grant believed her. He dated women from the right families, attended the right galas, made the right connections. His life was a blueprint designed by his mother, and he followed it without question. Until Avery Lane walked into the emergency room where his business partner had been rushed after a car accident. She wasn't supposed to matter. She was just the nurse checking vitals, adjusting IVs, speaking in that calm voice that somehow made crisis feel manageable. But when she looked at Grant, exhausted and terrified in that waiting room, she didn't see a Coldwell. She didn't see money or power or legacy. She saw a scared man who needed kindness. "He's going to be okay," she said softly, placing a hand on Grant's shoulder. "You can breathe now." And for the first time in years, Grant did. He came back the next day. Not for his partner. For her. He told himself it was gratitude. That he just wanted to thank her properly. Maybe take her to coffee. But when Avery smiled at him over terrible hospital cafeteria coffee, talking about her double shifts and her dream of opening a community health clinic someday, Grant felt something he'd never felt in his pristine, controlled world. Warmth. Real, unfiltered, dangerous warmth. Within weeks, he was completely undone. Avery didn't try to impress him. She showed up in scrubs with her hair in a messy bun, smelling faintly of antiseptic and vanilla body spray. She laughed too loud. She cried during sad movies. She listened like your words actually mattered. And when she touched him, it wasn't calculated or strategic. It was real. She made him feel like a man, not a monument. They spent stolen hours in her small apartment, worlds away from marble floors and judging eyes. She'd cook simple meals while he sat on her kitchen counter, talking about things he'd never told anyone. His fear of becoming his father, his exhaustion from being Eleanor's perfect son, his loneliness in a world full of people. Avery understood lonely. She'd lost her parents young. She worked herself to exhaustion just to survive. But she wasn't bitter. She was hopeful. She believed in second chances and small miracles, and the idea that love could heal anything. Grant fell for her quietly, deeply, recklessly. For 3 beautiful months, he lived 2 lives. In his world, he was still Eleanor's obedient heir. But in Avery's tiny apartment, in her soft bed, in her arms, he was just Grant, the man he was supposed to be. And then she told him she was pregnant. It was a Sunday morning. Soft light filtered through her bedroom curtains. She was nervous, hands trembling as she held the pregnancy test. Her voice was small but hopeful. "Grant, I'm pregnant." He froze. Not with joy, not with fear, with dread. Because in that moment, he heard his mother's voice louder than Avery's. Coldwell heirs are not born from ordinary blood. He saw Eleanor's face, her disappointment, her rage, the empire she'd threatened to strip from him if he ever embarrassed the family name. And he felt something ugly twist inside him. Pride, shame, cowardice, all of it dressed up as concern. "Avery," his voice was strained. "Are you sure?" She nodded, eyes searching his face for the reaction she desperately wanted. Love, excitement, partnership. She found none of it. "Grant." Her voice cracked. "Say something." He stood up, pacing, running his hands through his hair. His mind was a battlefield. Part of him wanted to pull her close, tell her everything would be okay, that they'd figure it out together. But the other part? The part his mother had carefully cultivated for 28 years? That part was screaming. What will people say? What will mother do? This will ruin everything. Avery, we need to think about this rationally, he said, his voice colder than he intended. Rationally. She stood now, wrapping her arms around herself. Grant, this is our baby. A baby neither of us planned for. But it's here, she whispered, tears forming. We're here. I thought we were building something real. We were, he said quickly. We are. But this is complicated. Complicated. Her voice rose. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow, Grant. I'm just asking you to want this. To want us. He looked at her, this woman who'd given him everything, and all he could see was his mother's sneer. Eleanor's voice echoed. What kind of fool throws away his legacy for a nurse? The cruelty that came next wasn't planned. It erupted from a place of fear so deep he didn't even recognize himself. Avery, he spoke slowly, deliberately, locking away every ounce of love he felt. Your blood is too cheap to carry my child. Silence. The world stopped. Avery's face drained of color. Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach, protective, devastated. What did you just say? Grant's jaw tightened. He couldn't take it back now. He'd already crossed into cruelty. Might as well finish it. You heard me, he said coldly. You're not from my world, Avery. And a child needs, it deserves. Deserves what? Her voice was breaking, tears streaming now. A father who actually loves it? Or a bloodline that makes it worthy? He said nothing, and his silence said everything. Avery's hands shook as she backed away from him, like he'd physically struck her. Get out, she whispered. Avery, get out. She screamed at this time, raw and guttural, her heart shattering in real time. Grant left. He walked out of her apartment, out of her life, and told himself it was the right thing to do. He told himself she'd be fine. He told himself he'd made the smart choice. He told himself love wasn't enough. But late at night, when the penthouse was silent and Eleanor's voice finally faded, he'd lie awake remembering Avery's smile, her laugh, her hands in his, and the way she'd looked at him like he was worth saving. By then it was too late. Avery Lane disappeared from his life completely. She didn't call, didn't text, didn't beg. She vanished like smoke, taking his child with her. And Grant Coldwell, the man who had everything, was left with nothing but the echo of 5 words he could never take back. Your blood is too cheap to carry my child. He destroyed the only woman who ever truly loved him. And he didn't even know he destroyed 2. Because Avery Lane wasn't carrying one child. She was carrying twins. Hi, my wonderful friends. Welcome once again to Mr. William Chronicles, where we turn pain into strength and heartbreak into hope with the power of stories. If this is your first time here, we are glad that you found us. Do me a favor. Give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and join Mr. Williams' family. Let me speak a blessing over you. May you never betray yourself to keep someone who doesn't value you, the strength to walk away from words that wound your soul, and the faith to believe that your worth was never determined by someone too broken to see it. You were always enough, even when they said you weren't. For years later, Avery Lane stood in front of the floor-length mirror in her modest bedroom, adjusting the collar of her navy blazer. The woman staring back at her barely resembled the broken girl who'd left Grant Coldwell's penthouse with tears streaming down her face and a shattered heart in her chest. This woman had sharper eyes, stronger shoulders, a jaw set with determination that came from surviving what should have destroyed her. She'd built this version of herself brick by brick, tear by tear, sleepless night by sleepless night. And she'd done it completely alone. Mommy, Lucas took my backpack. Did not. It's mine. Avery smiled, the sound of her children's voices pulling her from the mirror. She walked into the small living room where chaos had erupted in the form of 2 4-year-olds in a tug-of-war over a purple backpack. Lily Josephine Lane had Avery's warm brown eyes and infectious smile. But her face? That was all Grant. High cheekbones, delicate features, a stubborn chin that showed up whenever she didn't get her way. Lucas Grant Lane was quieter, more observant. He had Grant's storm gray eyes that seemed to see too much for a child so young. But his gentleness, his empathy, that was pure Avery. They were beautiful. They were brilliant. They were hers. And they were the only reason she survived the first year. Guys, Avery said, kneeling between them. Lily, baby, that's Lucas's backpack. Yours is the pink one by the door. Lily's bottom lip jutted out. But I like purple now. I know, sweetheart. We'll get you a purple one this weekend. Okay? But right now, we need to get to preschool before Miss Janet marks us late again. Lucas immediately released the backpack and wrapped his small arms around Avery's neck. I love you, Mommy. Her heart melted. Every single time. I love you too, baby boy, she whispered, kissing his forehead. This was worth everything. The pregnancy had been brutal. Not physically, though carrying twins while working double shifts at the hospital had nearly broken her body. But emotionally, Avery had drowned. For the first 3 months, she cried herself to sleep every night. Grant's words played on repeat in her mind like a curse she couldn't break. Your blood is too cheap to carry my child. She'd wanted to hate him. God, she tried. But heartbreak doesn't work that way. You can't just turn off love because someone stomps on it. The heart is stubborn. It holds on even when it should let go. So she channeled everything into survival. She worked. She saved. She planned. When her water broke 5 weeks early and she went into labor alone in her apartment, clutching her phone with no one to call, she didn't break. She drove herself to the hospital. She delivered Lily first. Then Lucas. Both screaming, both healthy, both perfect. And when the nurse asked, should we call the father? Avery had looked at her twins and whispered, there is no father. Because a man who rejected them before they were born didn't deserve the title. The first 2 years were a war zone. 2 crying babies. 2 EM feedings. Diaper changes that never seemed to end. Working night shifts while a neighbor watched the twins. Coming home exhausted, only to start the cycle again. She barely slept, barely ate, barely breathed. But she survived. And somewhere in that survival, something shifted. Avery stopped waiting for Grant to come back. Stopped hoping he'd see what he'd thrown away. Stopped believing she needed him. She started believing in herself. By the time the twins turned 2, Avery had saved enough to leave her nursing job and launch her own business. A small community health clinic that offered affordable care to families who couldn't afford hospital bills. It was risky, terrifying, impossible. But Avery Lane had delivered twins alone, raised them in a 1-bedroom apartment, and survived on 3 hours of sleep for 2 years. Impossible didn't scare her anymore. The clinic started small, just her and 1 part-time nurse. But word spread. Families came. The community supported her. And within 18 months, Lane Family Health had become a beacon of hope in a neighborhood that desperately needed it. Avery wasn't rich, not by Coldwell standards. But she was successful, respected, proud. She'd proven that worth had nothing to do with bloodlines. And everything to do with heart. Now, as she buckled Lily and Lucas into their car seats, Avery felt something she hadn't felt in 4 years. Peace. Not the kind that erases pain, but the kind that says, I survived. I built something beautiful from the ashes. Mommy, can we get pancakes after school? Lily asked, kicking her little feet. We'll see, baby. Mommy has a big meeting today. Are you going to help more people? Lucas asked quietly. Avery glanced at him in the rearview mirror. That's the plan, sweetheart. Always. You're the best mommy in the whole world, Lily declared. Avery's eyes stung with tears she refused to let fall. You too are my whole world, she whispered back. The preschool drop-off was the usual chaos. Lily ran inside without looking back. Lucas clung to Avery's hand a little longer, his gray eyes searching hers. You okay, Mommy? She smiled, amazed at how perceptive he was. I'm perfect, baby. Go learn something amazing today. He kissed her cheek and ran after his sister. Avery stood there for a moment, watching them disappear into the building, her chest tight with a love so fierce it hurt. Grant Coldwell had no idea what he'd missed. He didn't know that Lily had his laugh, loud and uninhibited when something truly delighted her. He didn't know that Lucas had inherited his intensity, the way he studied things with quiet focus. He didn't know that both of them asked about their father sometimes, and Avery had to smile through the heartbreak and say, "Your daddy isn't in our lives right now, but that doesn't mean you're not loved. You are so loved." He didn't know that she'd named Lucas after him. Grant was his middle name, because despite everything, she couldn't erase him completely. He didn't know that she still thought about him late at night when the apartment was quiet and the twins were asleep. She hated herself for it. But the heart doesn't obey logic. Some loves refuse to die even when they should. Avery drove to the clinic, her mind already shifting to the day ahead. A grant proposal was due. 2 new patients were scheduled. Inventory needed restocking. She didn't have time to think about Grant Coldwell. She'd built a life without him. A good life. A full life. But as she parked and grabbed her coffee, something made her pause. A black luxury car sat across the street. Expensive. Out of place in this neighborhood. She stared at it for a moment, an uneasy feeling crawling up her spine. Then she shook it off. Paranoia. That's all it was. Grant didn't know where she was. He'd never looked for her. And even if he had, for years was a long time. People moved on. She had. Hadn't she? Avery walked into her clinic, greeted her staff, and dove into the day. She didn't see the man sitting in that black car. Didn't see him watching her through tinted windows, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. Didn't see the devastation on his face as he realized what he'd done, what he'd lost. Grant Coldwell had spent 4 years trying to forget Avery Lane. He'd failed spectacularly. And now, by pure accident, he'd found her again. But he hadn't just found her. He'd seen them. The 2 children walking beside her into the community center last week. Small hands clutching her coat. One with her smile. One with his eyes. His children. The children he'd rejected before they were born. The children who were living proof that Avery Lane's blood wasn't cheap at all. It was priceless. And Grant Coldwell, billionaire, heir fool, had thrown it all away. Now, sitting in his car, watching the woman he destroyed build a kingdom without him, Grant finally understood what he'd lost. Everything. He'd lost everything. And he had no idea if he could ever get it back. Grant Coldwell hadn't slept in 3 days. Not since he saw them. He'd replayed the moment 1,000 times. Walking out of a business meeting downtown, cutting through the community center parking lot because his driver was late. And then there she was, Avery. But she wasn't alone. 2 children walked beside her. A boy and a girl. 4 years old, maybe 5. The girl was laughing, swinging Avery's hand. The boy walked quietly, his small face serious, observant. Grant had frozen mid-step. His heart stopped before his brain could catch up. The girl had Avery's smile. But her face? That bone structure was Coldwell. Unmistakable. And the boy. God, the boy had his eyes. Those exact storm gray eyes that stared back at Grant every morning in the mirror. His knees nearly buckled right there in the parking lot. He'd stumbled to his car, hands shaking so violently he could barely grip the door handle. He sat there for 2 hours, watching Avery load the twins into her modest sedan, watching her drive away, watching his entire world collapse and rebuild itself in the span of a heartbeat. She'd had the baby. No, she'd had babies. Twins. His twins. And he'd missed everything. First steps. First words. First birthdays. For years of life he could never get back. For years he'd stolen from himself because he was too much of a coward to stand up to his mother. The guilt was a living thing, eating him from the inside out. For 3 days he followed her from a distance. Not to be creepy, though he knew how it looked. But because he couldn't stay away. He watched her drop the twins at preschool every morning. Watched her work at a clinic she clearly owned. Watched her pick them up with a smile that used to be his. She'd built a whole life without him. And she looked happy. That hurt more than anything. On the 4th day, Grant broke. He couldn't just watch anymore. He couldn't live with the questions burning holes through his chest. Were they really his? Did she hate him? Did the children know about him? Did they ask about their father? Did she ever think about him the way he thought about her every single day for 4 years? He waited until she came home that evening, watched her park, watched her carry grocery bags toward the small house she rented in a neighborhood that made his penthouse feel like a mausoleum. Then he got out of the car. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. Every step toward her felt like walking toward his own execution. She didn't see him at first. She was fumbling with keys, balancing bags, calling something to the twins who were already running toward the front door. Avery. His voice cracked on her name. She froze. The grocery bags nearly slipped from her hands. She turned slowly, and when her eyes met his, Grant saw everything flash across her face. Shock, disbelief, anger, pain, and something else. Something she tried to hide but couldn't quite manage. Recognition, not just of his face, but of the way her heart still responded to him, even after everything. She hated that he could see it. "What are you doing here?" Her voice was ice over fire. Grant's throat closed. He'd practiced this moment 100 times in his head. Now every word deserted him. "I saw you last week at the community center." Her jaw tightened. And I saw them." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Avery, are they mine?" The silence that followed was deafening. Avery set the grocery bags down carefully, like she was trying very hard not to throw them at his head. When she looked at him again, her eyes were blazing. "You have no right to ask me that." "I know. You have no right to be here. No right to show up after 4 years like you're owed answers." "I'm not asking because I'm owed anything," Grant said quickly. "I'm asking because I need to know. Please." Avery laughed. It was bitter, broken. "Now you need to know? Where was that need 4 years ago when I was pregnant and terrified and alone?" The words hit like bullets. Grant flinched. "I was wrong. God, Avery, I was so wrong." "You think?" She stepped closer, and he could see tears threatening to spill. "You told me my blood was too cheap, Grant. You looked at me like I was nothing. Like our baby was a mistake you needed to erase." "I know. And now you want to know if they're yours?" Her voice rose. "Yes, they're yours. Lily and Lucas are your children. The children you rejected before they were born. Happy now?" Grant's legs gave out. He literally sat down on her front lawn, head in his hands, shaking. Lily and Lucas. He had a daughter and a son, and they had no idea he existed. "Grant, get up." Avery's voice was sharp. "The neighbors are watching, and I don't need this drama on my front lawn." He looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. Can I see them?" "No." "Avery, please." "No." She crossed her arms. "You don't get to waltz back in and play daddy after 4 years. They don't know you. They don't need you. We've been fine without you." "I'm not trying to take anything from you," Grant said desperately. I just want to meet them. Please. I'm begging you." "You're begging." Avery's laugh was hollow. "That's rich. The great Grant Coldwell, begging the woman whose blood was too cheap." He winced. "I hate myself for saying that. I've hated myself every day since you walked out." "I didn't walk out. You pushed me." "I know." He stood, keeping his distance, because he could see she was barely holding it together. "I know I destroyed everything. But, Avery, they're my children. I missed 4 years. Please don't make me miss the rest of their lives." Avery's hands trembled. She turned away, arms wrapped around herself. "You don't understand what you're asking," she said quietly. "They're happy. They're stable. Bringing you into their lives will complicate everything. I'm their father. Biology doesn't make you a father." She whirled on him. "Being there makes you a father. Showing up at 3 a.m. when they're sick makes you a father. Working yourself to exhaustion so they have what they need makes you a father. Where were you, Grant? Where were you when I went into labor alone? Where were you when I couldn't afford diapers and formula? Where were you when Lucas had pneumonia and I stayed up for 48 hours straight making sure he kept breathing?" Every word was a knife. Grant absorbed them all. He deserved every single one. "You're right," he whispered. "I wasn't there. and I can never make up for that. But, Avery, I want to try. Please. Let me try. She stared at him for a long moment, and Grant held his breath. Finally, she spoke. If you hurt them, if you confuse them or break their hearts the way you broke mine, I will make sure you never see them again. Do you understand me? Yes. This isn't about you earning forgiveness. This is about them. Only them. I understand. Avery closed her eyes, clearly warring with herself. Then she sighed. 1 hour. Supervised. And if they don't want you around, you leave. No arguments. Thank you, Grant breathed. Thank you, Avery. I swear. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't make promises you can't keep. Just don't hurt my babies. My babies. Not our babies. The distinction gutted him. But he nodded. I won't. I promise. She led him inside, and Grant felt like he was stepping into another universe. The house was small but immaculate, warm, lived in. Photos covered the walls, Avery and the twins at the park, the beach, birthday parties. For years of memories, he wasn't in. Lily, Lucas, come here for a minute. Avery called. 2 sets of footsteps thundered down the hallway. And then they appeared. Grant's breath caught. Seeing them from a distance was one thing. But up close? They were perfect. Absolutely perfect. Lily wore a princess dress over her regular clothes, her dark hair in 2 messy pigtails. Lucas held a toy car, his gray eyes serious as he studied Grant. Who's that, Mommy? Lily asked. Avery's voice was steady, but Grant could hear the effort it took. This is Grant. He's an old friend of Mommy's. He wanted to meet you guys. Hi, Lily said cheerfully, waving. Lucas said nothing, just watched, calculating. Grant knelt down to their level, his voice thick with emotion. Hi, Lily. Hi, Lucas. It's really nice to meet you both. You're crying, Lucas observed. Grant laughed, wiping his eyes. Yeah, buddy. I am. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're really happy. Why are you happy? Lily tilted her head. Because you exist. Because you're real. Because I didn't lose everything. Because I get to meet you, Grant said simply. Lily smiled. Lucas remained skeptical. For the next hour, Grant sat on that living room floor and played. He built block towers with Lily. He raced cars with Lucas. He listened to Lily explain her entire imaginary kingdom. He watched Lucas silently test him, studying every reaction. And through it all, Avery watched from the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, guarding her heart and her children. Grant didn't push, didn't overstep, didn't try to force anything. He just showed up. When the hour ended, Lily hugged him goodbye without hesitation. Lucas shook his hand, formal and reserved. Can he come back, Mommy? Lily asked. Avery looked at Grant, really looked at him, and Grant looked back, silently pleading. We'll see, Avery said carefully. But she didn't say no, and that was enough. If you've made it this far in the story, you're invested. Show some love, hit that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because trust me, things are about to get complicated. Drop a comment. Do you think Avery should give Grant a second chance, or has he lost that right forever? Grant left that house a different man than the one who'd arrived. He sat in his car, hands shaking, tears streaming, and made himself a promise. He would be the father they deserved. He would earn back Avery's trust. He would fix what he'd broken, even if it took the rest of his life. Because Grant Coldwell had finally learned the lesson his mother never taught him. Blood doesn't make family. Love does. And he was going to love his children with everything he had. Starting now. For 6 weeks, Grant showed up. Every single day. He brought groceries when Avery worked late. He drove the twins to preschool when her car wouldn't start. He sat through dance recitals and parent-teacher conferences. He learned that Lily loved strawberries but hated blueberries, that Lucas was terrified of thunderstorms, that both of them slept with nightlights shaped like stars. He learned how to braid hair, badly at first, then better. He fixed Lucas's broken toy car with super glue and patience. He read bedtime stories in funny voices that made Lily giggle and Lucas almost smile. He became a presence in their lives. Not a father yet, Not officially, but something close. Avery watched it all with guarded eyes and a heart that was slowly, dangerously, beginning to soften. She hated how much the twins had taken to him. Hated how Lily now asked when Mr. Grant was coming over. Hated how Lucas, her quiet, careful boy, had started showing Grant his drawings. But mostly, she hated how her own heart betrayed her every time Grant smiled at their children. Because she remembered loving that smile once. And part of her, the stupid, foolish part she tried to bury, still did. They were building something fragile, something tentative, something that terrified them both. Grant hadn't told his mother. That was his first mistake. Eleanor Coldwell didn't survive in high society by being oblivious. She had eyes everywhere, informants in places most people didn't even know existed. So when her son started disappearing every evening, when his assistant reported mysterious blocked-off hours in his schedule, when he showed up to a board meeting with a poorly done French braid in his hair that he clearly didn't notice, Eleanor investigated, and what she found made her blood run cold. Avery Lane, the nurse, the nobody her son had finally moved past 4 years ago. And worse, so much worse, 2 children, Grant's children, if the private investigator's photos were to be believed. Those Coldwell eyes on the boy were unmistakable. Eleanor sat in her pristine living room, staring at the photographs spread across her marble coffee table, and felt rage unlike anything she'd experienced in years. This woman, this cheap, opportunistic woman, had trapped her son twice. Once with pregnancy, now with guilt. Unacceptable, Eleanor whispered to the empty room. She picked up her phone. 3 days later, Avery got the first warning. A lawyer's letter, delivered to her clinic. Professional, cold, threatening. It claimed that Grant Coldwell was seeking to establish paternity and was prepared to pursue full custody if Ms. Lane did not cooperate with a reasonable visitation arrangement. Avery's hands shook as she read it. Grant had promised her this was just about being present, about earning their trust. He'd looked her in the eyes and sworn he wasn't trying to take them from her. And now this? She called him immediately, voice shaking with fury. What the hell is this, Grant? What? Avery, slow down. The lawyer's letter. You're suing me for custody. Silence. Then, what letter? Avery, I didn't send any letter. Don't lie to me. She was crying now, for years of trauma resurfacing. I knew this would happen. I knew I couldn't trust you. You're just like your mother. My mother? Grant's voice went deadly quiet. Avery, what exactly does the letter say? She read it to him, her voice breaking on every word. Grant's response was a string of curses she'd never heard from him before. That wasn't me, he said urgently. Avery, I swear on my children's lives, I didn't send that. It's my mother. It has to be. Your mother doesn't even know about them. She does now, Grant said grimly. I should have told you she might find out. I should have warned you. God, Avery, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Avery shouted. Your mother is threatening to take my children. She won't, Grant said firmly. I won't let her. I'm coming over right now. Don't respond to that letter. Don't do anything until I get there. He hung up before she could argue. Eleanor's attack was just beginning. 2 days later, Child Protective Services showed up at Avery's door. An anonymous complaint. Allegations of unsafe living conditions, inadequate supervision, possible neglect. All lies. Every single word. But the system doesn't care about truth when a complaint is filed. They have to investigate. A social worker walked through Avery's home, inspecting every corner, while Lily and Lucas watched with wide, frightened eyes. Avery stood there humiliated, terrified, holding back tears as this stranger judged her home, her parenting, her entire life. The social worker found nothing, of course. The house was clean, the children were healthy and happy. There was food in the fridge and love in every room. But the damage was done. Avery's hands didn't stop shaking for 3 days. And the twins started having nightmares. Grant was furious. He stormed into his mother's mansion like a hurricane, past the butler, past the staff, straight into Eleanor's sitting room where she was calmly having tea. What did you do? He demanded. Eleanor didn't even look up. I protected our family name. By terrorizing the mother of my children, your alleged children, Eleanor corrected. We have no proof they're actually Coldwell's. They have my eyes, Mother. Lucas looks exactly like me at that age. Then get a paternity test, she said smoothly. Establish it legally, and then we can discuss appropriate arrangements. Appropriate arrangements? Grant's voice rose. You mean ripping them away from the only parent they've ever known? Eleanor finally looked at him. I mean ensuring that Coldwell heirs are raised properly. In our world. With our resources. Not in some rental house by a woman who... Don't. Grant's voice was ice. Don't you dare finish that sentence. She trapped you once, Grant. She's trapping you again. Can't you see that? The only trap I'm in is the one you built, he shouted. You raised me to be cold, calculated, cruel. And when I finally found someone who made me human, you made sure I destroyed it. Eleanor stood, perfectly composed. I made sure you didn't throw away your future for a fling. She wasn't a fling. I loved her. The words burst out of him, raw and honest. I loved her, and you poisoned me against her. And now I have 2 children who barely know me, because I was too afraid of disappointing you. Love, Eleanor scoffed. Love is a fairy tale for people who can't afford better options. Grant stared at his mother, really seeing her for the first time. She wasn't powerful. She was empty. She wasn't protecting him. She was controlling him. And he was done. Stay away from Avery, he said quietly. Stay away from Lily and Lucas. If you come near them, if you file another false report, if you send one more lawyer their way, I will cut you out of my life completely. Eleanor's eyes flashed. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Grant said. I already lost them once because of you. I won't lose them again. He walked out, leaving his mother standing in her gilded prison alone. But Eleanor Coldwell hadn't built an empire by backing down. The attacks continued. Investigators followed Avery to work. Photographers caught her picking up the twins, making it look like she was being surveilled for a reason. Whispers started in the preschool. Was Ms. Lane involved in something? Was there a custody dispute? Were the children safe? The stress was crushing. Avery lost weight. She wasn't sleeping. She jumped at every knock on the door, terrified it was another social worker or another lawyer or another attack she couldn't predict. Grant tried to shield her. He hired his own lawyers. He paid for a security system for her house. He threatened his mother with everything he had. But Eleanor was relentless. She filed for grandparents' rights, a legal maneuver that would force Avery into court. She leaked stories to society pages about Grant's secret children and the opportunistic woman trying to cash in on the Coldwell name. She sent letters to Avery's clinic landlord, questioning whether someone under investigation should be operating a healthcare facility. Every attack was designed to break Avery. And slowly, devastatingly, it was working. Grant found her one evening, sitting on her kitchen floor, staring at yet another legal document, tears streaming down her face. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. He sat beside her, pulling her into his arms. Yes, you can. You're the strongest person I know. I'm tired, Grant, she sobbed. I'm so tired. I just wanted to raise my kids in peace. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for your mother's war. I know, he murmured into her hair. I know, baby. I'm so sorry. She pulled back, looking at him with exhausted eyes. Maybe you should just go. Maybe if you're not in our lives, she'll stop. No. Grant's voice was firm. That's what she wants. She wants to scare you away so I never see my children. I won't let her win. What if she does win? Avery's voice cracked. What if she takes them from me? Grant, I can't lose them. They're everything. They're my whole world. You won't lose them, Grant promised, cupping her face. I swear to you, Avery. I will fight her with everything I have. She will not take our children. Our children. It was the first time he'd said it that way. Avery closed her eyes, leaning into his touch, too exhausted to fight anymore. And Grant held her, making silent promises to a God he rarely prayed to. He would end this. He would protect his family, even if it meant destroying his own mother. Winter came early that year. The kind of cold that seeped through walls and settled in your bones. Avery's old rental house wasn't built for this kind of weather. The heating system wheezed and groaned, barely keeping up with the frigid temperatures outside. She'd been meaning to replace it, had been saving up. But between Eleanor's legal attacks, draining her savings on lawyer fees, and the twins needing winter clothes, and the clinic's expenses, the heating system would have to wait. So she did what any mother would do. She bought 2 space heaters for the kids' room. Safe ones. Expensive ones with automatic shutoffs and tip-over protection. She checked them obsessively. Every night before bed. Every morning before leaving for work. She was careful. She was always careful. But exhaustion makes people careless in ways they don't realize. That Tuesday evening, Avery was bone-tired. Eleanor had filed another motion. The lawyer fees were mounting. She'd worked a 12-hour shift at the clinic because 2 staff members called in sick. The twins had been cranky all evening, fighting over toys, refusing to eat dinner. By the time she got them bathed and into pajamas, Avery was running on fumes. She tucked Lily in first, kissing her forehead. "Sweet dreams, baby girl." "Is Mr. Grant coming tomorrow?" Lily asked sleepily. "I think so, sweetheart." "Good. I miss him when he's not here." Avery's heart twisted. "Me too, baby." She moved to Lucas's bed. He was already half asleep, clutching his favorite toy car, the one Grant had fixed. "Love you, Mommy," he murmured. "Love you more," she whispered back. She glanced at the space heaters. Both running. Both positioned safely away from curtains and furniture. Everything looked fine. She was so tired she didn't notice the frayed wire on the older heater. Didn't see the way it sparked slightly when the heating element cycled on. She just closed the door softly and went to take a shower, planning to collapse into bed right after. Across town, Grant sat across from his mother in the Coldwell mansion. This was it. The final confrontation. He'd tried reasoning with her, tried threatening her, tried begging her. Nothing worked. Eleanor Coldwell was a force of nature, and she would not stop until she destroyed Avery completely or bent Grant back under her control. So tonight, Grant came with an ultimatum. "I'm done, Mother," he said quietly. Eleanor sipped her wine. "Done with what, darling?" "With you. With this family. With the Coldwell name, if that's what it takes." She laughed. Actually laughed. "You're being dramatic." "I'm being serious." Grant leaned forward. "You will stop harassing Avery. You will drop every legal action. You will leave my children alone. Or I walk away from everything. The company. The inheritance. The name. All of it." Eleanor's smile faded. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Grant's voice was steel. "I've already drafted the papers. One signature, and I'm out. You'll have to find another heir, Mother. Because I'm choosing them over you." For the first time in his life, Grant saw genuine fear in his mother's eyes. "Grant, you can't possibly." "I can," he interrupted. "And I will. I spent 4 years living by your rules, being who you wanted me to be. And it cost me everything that mattered. I won't make that mistake again." Eleanor stood, composure cracking. "You're throwing away your legacy for that woman? For children who?" "For my family," Grant shouted, rising to face her. "For the people I love. Something you've never understood, because you've never loved anyone but yourself." The room fell silent. Eleanor's face had gone pale. "How dare you?" "No, Mother." "How dare you?" Grant's voice shook with fury. "You terrorized a woman who did nothing but love me. You tried to rip my children away from the only parent they've ever known. You filed false reports, hired investigators, spread lies, all because you couldn't stand that I chose happiness over your approval. I was protecting you. You were controlling me." Grant grabbed his coat. "And I'm done being controlled. You have 24 hours to drop everything. If you don't, you'll never see me again. And you'll never meet your grandchildren." He walked toward the door. "Grant." Eleanor's voice was desperate now. "Grant, wait." But he was already gone. He sat in his car outside the mansion, hands shaking with adrenaline. He'd done it. Finally stood up to her. Finally chose right over easy. His phone buzzed. He almost didn't check it. almost drove straight to Avery's to tell her it was over, that Eleanor would finally leave them alone. But something made him look. Mrs. Howell, Avery's neighbor. His blood ran cold. He answered, "Grant, Grant, you need to come. Now. There's a fire, Avery's house, the children, oh God, just come." The phone slipped from his hand. For one frozen moment, Grant couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't exist. Then he moved. He drove like a man possessed, running red lights, swerving through traffic, praying harder than he'd ever prayed in his life. Please, please, please. Not them. Anyone but them. He could see the smoke from 2 blocks away. Orange flames licking the night sky. His heart stopped. Back at the house, 20 minutes earlier, Avery had just stepped out of the shower when she smelled it. Smoke. Faint at first. Then stronger. Wrong. Everything in her body screamed wrong. She threw on clothes and ran into the hallway. Smoke poured from under the twins' door. Lily. Lucas. She didn't think. Didn't hesitate. Didn't stop to call 911 or grab anything. She just ran. She threw open the door, and hell greeted her. The space heater had overheated. The frayed wire had sparked. The curtain caught first, then the rug, then the wall. The entire room was ablaze. Lily was coughing violently in the corner, too scared to move. Lucas was screaming, trapped behind a wooden shelf that had collapsed when the wall buckled, pinning him. Avery's world narrowed to 2 points. Her children. The fire between them. "Mommy," Lily screamed. "I'm coming, baby. I'm coming." Avery plunged into the smoke, eyes burning, lungs screaming. The heat was unbearable, like walking into an oven. She grabbed Lily first, shoving her toward the door. "Go. Run to Mrs. Howell's house. Go." Lily ran, sobbing. Lucas was still trapped. The shelf was heavy, solid wood. Flames crawled up the wall, behind him, eating everything in their path. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lucas cried. "I know, baby. I know. Mommy's got you." She wedged her shoulder under the shelf and pushed. It didn't budge. Smoke choked her. The heat blistered her skin. Her vision blurred. "You're not strong enough. Move," she screamed at the shelf, at God, at the universe. She pushed again. Nothing. The fire roared closer. Lucas's screams got louder. And in that moment, in that impossible moment, Avery's mind fractured. Grant should be here. He should have been here 4 years ago. He should have stayed. He should have loved me enough. Why did I have to do everything alone? Why wasn't I enough for him? Why did he break me? Why do I still love him after everything? Why do I dream about him holding me when the house is quiet and the kids are asleep? Why does love hurt this much? The tears came, mixing with the smoke and soot on her face. But tears don't save children. Strength does. And Avery Lane had more strength than she ever knew. She screamed, raw, primal, guttural, and lifted with everything she had left. The shelf moved. Just barely. Just enough. She dragged Lucas free, clutching him to her chest. "I've got you, baby. Mommy's got you." She turned toward the door. The ceiling groaned. She looked up just as a burning beam broke free. Time slowed. She had one choice: protect herself and drop Lucas, or shield Lucas and take the hit. There was no choice. Avery curled her body over her son just as the beam struck her back. Pain exploded through her like lightning. Fire ate through her shirt, blistering her skin. She smelled her own flesh burning. She dropped to her knees. But she didn't let go. Mothers don't die until their children are safe. She forced herself up, stumbled toward the door. Lucas clutched against her chest, her back screaming in agony. She kicked the door open. Cold air rushed in. She made it 3 steps onto the lawn before her legs gave out. She collapsed, rolling Lucas away from her so he wouldn't be hurt by her fall. Neighbors were screaming. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone pulled Lucas from her arms. Someone else tried to help her up. But Avery couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but whisper one word before darkness took her. Grant. Grant abandoned his car in the middle of the street. The house was an inferno. Fire trucks were just arriving. Paramedics were everywhere. "Where are they?" he screamed at the first person he saw. "The children are safe. The mother got them out." "Where is she?" Grant grabbed the man's shoulders. "Where's Avery?" A pointing finger toward an ambulance. Grant ran, and his heart shattered. Avery lay on a stretcher, her back covered in burns, her face pale under streaks of soot and ash. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't moving. No, 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 no. Grant fell to his knees beside her. "Avery, baby, please. Open your eyes." Her eyelids fluttered weakly. "Grant." She breathed. "I'm here. I'm right here. You're going to be okay. You have to be okay. Please." A paramedic touched his shoulder. "Sir, we need to move her now. She's critical." "Then move her," Grant shouted. If you're still watching, you know this story has grabbed your heart. Hit that like button right now and subscribe because you need to see how this ends. Comment below. What would you do for the people you love? They loaded her into the ambulance. Grant climbed in without asking permission. As the sirens screamed through the night, Grant held Avery's burned hand as gently as he could and made promises to a woman who might not survive to hear them. "Stay with me. Please, Avery. Stay with me. I love you. I've always loved you. I was just too stupid and scared to say it. But I'm saying it now. I love you. And I can't lose you. Not like this. Please, baby. Please don't leave me." Her fingers twitched in his, and Grant prayed harder than he'd ever prayed in his life. Avery survived the ambulance ride. Barely. The emergency room was chaos, doctors shouting, machines beeping, hands moving with practiced urgency. Grant stood frozen outside the trauma room, watching through the window as they worked on her. Third-degree burns across her back. Second-degree burns on her arms. Smoke inhalation. Damaged lungs. Dropping oxygen levels. The numbers on the monitors kept falling, and Grant kept praying. A nurse finally pulled him away. "Sir, you need to let them work. There's a waiting room." "I'm not leaving her, sir. She's the mother of my children." His voice cracked. "She just ran into a burning building to save them. I'm not leaving her alone in there." The nurse's expression softened. She squeezed his arm. "The twins are in pediatrics. Room 304. They're asking for you." Grant's heart split in two directions. Stay with Avery. Go to his children. Go, another nurse said gently. "We'll come get you if anything changes. But those babies need their father right now." He nodded numbly and forced his legs to move. Room 304 felt like miles away. When he opened the door, two small faces looked up at him, and Grant's remaining composure shattered. Lily and Lucas sat on a hospital bed, wrapped in blankets, faces smudged with soot. Lily had tear tracks down her cheeks. Lucas stared at nothing, clutching that toy car like a lifeline. "Daddy," Lily sobbed. It was the first time she called him that. Grant crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled them both into his arms, careful of their minor injuries, holding them like they might disappear if he let go. "I've got you," he whispered, voice breaking. "Daddy's got you. You're safe. You're both safe." "Where's Mommy?" Lucas asked, his small voice hollow. Grant pulled back just enough to look at them. "Mommy's with the doctors. She got hurt, saving you." "Is she gonna die?" Lily's lip trembled. "No," Grant said firmly, praying it was true. "Mommy's the strongest person I know. She's going to fight, and she's going to be okay." "She saved us," Lucas whispered. "The fire was everywhere, and she didn't leave us." "That's because your mommy loves you more than anything in the world," Grant said, tears streaming freely now. "She's a hero, the bravest woman who ever lived." They stayed like that for a long time, tangled together on that hospital bed. 3 broken pieces trying to make a whole. A social worker came, asked questions, verified Grant's identity as their father. The twins clung to him through all of it, and Grant refused to let them go. Hours crawled by. A doctor finally appeared at the door. "Mr. Coldwell?" Grant's heart stopped. "Is she?" "We've stabilized her for now, but the burns are extensive, and her lungs took significant damage. We're transferring her to the burn ICU. The next 48 hours are critical." "Can I see her?" The doctor hesitated. She sedated. But yes, briefly. Grant looked at the twins. A nurse stepped forward. I'll stay with them. He kissed both their foreheads. I'll be right back. I promise. The ICU was sterile, cold, beeping with machines that measured life in numbers that meant everything and nothing. Avery looked so small in that bed. Bandages covered most of her body. Tubes ran from her arms. A ventilator breathed for her. Her beautiful face was pale, peaceful, unaware of the pain, waiting when she woke. If she woke, Grant pulled a chair close and took her hand, the only part of her he could safely touch. "Hey, baby," he whispered. "I know you can't hear me, but I need to say this anyway." His voice broke. "I'm so sorry. For everything. For what I said 4 years ago. For not being there. For letting my mother hurt you. For every moment you struggled alone while I was too much of a coward to find you." Tears fell onto their joined hands. "You saved our children tonight. Our children, Avery. Because they're ours. They've always been ours. And I'm never walking away again." He pressed his forehead to her hand. "So you have to fight, okay? You have to come back. Because Lily needs you to braid her hair the right way. And Lucas needs you to tell him it's okay to be scared sometimes. And I need," his voice shattered, "I need you to forgive me, even though I don't deserve it, even though I broke us. I need one more chance to love you the way I should have from the beginning." The machines beeped steadily. Avery didn't move, but Grant stayed, whispering prayers and promises until the nurses made him leave. The next 2 days were a nightmare of waiting. Grant moved between the twins' room and Avery's ICU bed. He barely slept, barely ate, just existed in a fog of fear and guilt. The twins were discharged on day 3. Grant took them to his penthouse, the first time they'd seen his world. Lily was fascinated by everything. Lucas was quiet, withdrawn, asking about Mommy every hour. "Soon, buddy," Grant kept saying. Soon. Eleanor showed up on day 4. Grant met her in the lobby, made sure she couldn't get to the elevator. "I heard what happened," she said quietly. "Grant, I never meant." "You meant every bit of it," Grant said coldly. "Your attacks pushed her to exhaustion. She was so stressed, so tired from fighting you, that she made a mistake. One mistake. And now she's fighting for her life." Eleanor's face paled. "That's not fair." "Fair." Grant laughed bitterly. "You want to talk about fair? You tried to destroy a woman for the crime of loving me. You terrorized the mother of your grandchildren. And when I finally stood up to you, Avery was alone, trying to survive a fire that might not have happened if she wasn't so exhausted from your war." "Grant." "No." He stepped closer. "I meant what I said. You're not part of this family. You'll never meet Lily and Lucas. And if Avery dies..." His voice broke. "If she dies, I will never forgive you. And I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of monster you are." He walked away, leaving his mother standing in the cold lobby, finally understanding what she'd done. On day 6, Avery opened her eyes. Grant was reading Lucas a story when the nurse rushed in. "She's awake." He ran. Avery blinked slowly, painfully, her eyes struggling to focus. When they landed on Grant, something flickered there. Recognition. Relief. Love. "Grant," she rasped. He was at her side instantly, careful not to touch her injuries. "I'm here. I'm right here." "The kids." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Safe," he said quickly. "They're perfect. You saved them both. You're a hero, Avery." A single tear slid down her cheek. "Hurts." "I know, baby. I know. But you're going to be okay. You have to be okay." She closed her eyes. "Tired." "Then rest," he murmured. "I'll be here when you wake up. I promise." Over the next 3 days, Avery fought harder than anyone thought possible. She endured wound cleanings that made her scream, breathing treatments that left her gasping, physical therapy that brought tears. She fought through all of it with a determination that left doctors in awe. Grant brought the twins to visit. Lily climbed carefully onto the bed, chattering about everything she'd seen at Daddy's house. Lucas just held Avery's hand, silent tears streaming. "My brave boy," Avery whispered, touching his face. I love you, Mommy, Lucas said. Love you more, she breathed back. Those visits gave her strength. But the fire had taken more than anyone realized. On day 9, her kidneys began to fail. The doctors tried everything. Dialysis, medications, procedures with names Grant couldn't pronounce. Nothing worked. On day 11, her lungs collapsed again during the night. They revived her, but the damage was catastrophic. Her body, already weakened by years of exhaustion, stress, Eleanor's attacks, single motherhood on no sleep, simply couldn't heal fast enough. The doctor spoke in careful, gentle tones about quality of life and making her comfortable. Grant refused to hear it. She's a fighter, he insisted. She survived worse. But even fighters have limits. On day 12, Avery knew. Grant could see it in her eyes when he walked into the ICU that evening. The twins were asleep on the couch in the waiting room, exhausted from another day of waiting. Grant, Avery said softly, "Sit with me." He did, taking her hand carefully. "I need you to listen," she said, her voice weak but clear. "And I need you not to argue. Avery, please." He nodded, throat tight. "I'm tired, Grant. My body is tired. And I think it's time to stop fighting." "No." The word burst out. "No, you can't give up. The twins need you. I need you, and I need to know they'll be okay," she said gently. "That's why I need you to promise me something." Tears streamed down Grant's face. "Anything." "Raise them with love," Avery whispered. "Not rules. Not expectations. Not your mother's poison. Just love. Let them be kids. Let them make mistakes. Let them know they're enough exactly as they are." "I promise," Grant choked out. "God, Avery, I promise." "And don't hate yourself," she continued. "People change. You changed. You became the man I always knew you could be. That's enough. It's not enough if I lose you." Avery smiled, that same gentle smile that made him fall in love 4 years ago. "You never lost me, Grant. I loved you through all of it, even when I shouldn't have, even when it hurt. I never stopped." Her hand squeezed his weakly. "Tell them about me. Tell them I fought for them. Tell them they were my whole world. And tell them," her voice faded, "tell them their mommy's watching over them. Always. Avery, please." Grant was sobbing now. "Please don't leave me. I can't do this without you." "Yes, you can," she whispered. "You're stronger than you think. And you're not alone. You have them. Love them, Grant. Love them enough for both of us." The monitors began to beep slower. "I love you," Grant said desperately. "I love you so much. I'm so sorry. I know," Avery breathed. "I forgive you. I always did." Her eyes closed. Her chest rose once more, then stilled. The monitor flatlined, and Grant Coldwell broke into pieces that would never fully mend. This is the moment that changes everything. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment sharing how it made you feel. Sometimes the most powerful love stories are the ones that remind us to cherish the people we have while we still can. 3 weeks later, Grant stood in a small cemetery overlooking a peaceful hill. Lily held his right hand. Lucas held his left. The pastor spoke words that meant nothing and everything. Friends and neighbors gathered. Even some of Avery's clinic staff came, crying openly. Eleanor didn't come. Grant had made it clear she wasn't welcome. As they lowered Avery's casket, Lily tugged his hand. "Daddy, is Mommy really in heaven?" Grant knelt between his children, pulling them close. "Yes, baby girl. She's in heaven. And she's proud of you. Both of you." "Will we see her again?" Lucas asked quietly. "One day," Grant promised. "But not for a very long time. Because Mommy wants you to live big, beautiful lives first. She wants you to be happy." "Are you happy, Daddy?" Lily asked. Grant's throat closed. He looked at these 2 perfect children. Avery's legacy, her gift, her everything. "I'm getting there, sweetheart. With you 2 helping me, I'm getting there." They stayed at the grave after everyone left. Grant placed his hand on the headstone, reading the inscription he'd chosen. Avery Lane, beloved mother, the bravest woman who ever lived. "I'll keep my promises," he whispered. I'll raise them the way you wanted. I'll be the father they deserve. And one day, when they ask who you were," his voice broke, "I'll tell them you were everything, that you loved them more than life, that you were my second chance, even though I didn't deserve one." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the faint scent of vanilla, Avery's body spray. Grant closed his eyes and imagined it was her, telling him it was okay to move forward. He picked up Lily and took Lucas's hand. "Come on, guys. Let's go home." As they walked away, Lucas looked back once. "Bye, Mommy," he whispered. "I love you." Grant's heart shattered and mended in the same moment. Because this grief, this love, this responsibility was Avery's final gift. She'd given her life to save their children. Now Grant would spend the rest of his making sure that sacrifice meant something. He would love them fiercely, raise them gently, teach them that worth has nothing to do with bloodlines and everything to do with the size of your heart. And every night, when he tucked them in, he'd tell them about the woman who loved them so much she walked through fire. The woman whose blood wasn't cheap at all. It was priceless, just like the love she left behind. Let me leave you with this final truth. May you love the people in your life while you still can. May you recognize that wealth is measured in moments, not money. And may you have the courage to become the person your loved ones always believed you could be. Because the greatest inheritance you can leave is not what you own, but how deeply you loved. If this story moved you, take a moment right now to tell someone you love them. Tomorrow isn't promised, but today is still here.